once you get a sound in vocal percussion, which is like the fancy way of saying beatboxing. Once you get a sound that's really cool, it's super awesome. So if I go like that is a sound that's just the kick sound I've been working on a bunch, and it sounds so much better than it used to. But the problem is that when you're working on sounds, like I have been trying to work on a specific snare sound, and it just sounds like flatulence at first. I'm like,
There's an awkward thing to practice.
And there's spit everywhere. Yes. And if you can't laugh at yourself in that growth process, then you should probably not be taking lessons.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the owl I've made for Siobhán because I actually didn't make it.
I was going to say, did you make that?
Yeah, I crocheted this.
And of course, for all the people listening, you obviously have to tune into the YouTube cast because they can't see with their ears.
If you haven't subscribed to 2020-d.com and realize that there's a visual component to this, for the sake of yourself, go on and see the amazing crochet work that is this owl. Thank you, Brooke's mom. We really appreciate it. I'm Betty Goodman. This is 2020, and I'm here with my cohorts, Cory and Siobhán. How are you guys doing?
Good. Woo.
Doing great.
Excited. And there are more stuffed animal appearances in this episode, which we have part 2 with the lady that is behind the charismatic voice, Elizabeth Zharoff. We get a little bit deeper into some of her other experiences building a community.
Fascinating. Really, really getting in depth with just, an interesting career and a world that many people probably don't think about, which is, running a successful YouTube channel.
No, and being a one-taker.
And well, beyond that, building an entire career around...
I'm being a one-taker. She's like Larry Bird and Michael Jordan just sitting there going...
Okay, so you need to tune into the YouTube cast. Look at Cory's face right now after Ben just literally hijacked his intro.
Yeah.
2020 them.
The main lesson to take away is authenticity and how she's grown a business around being herself.
And she also proves how important it is to invest in yourself, which is like a super great takeaway from both of the episodes. If you haven't listened to part 1, go listen. But yeah, just how you are your own brand. She really is a great example of that.
I think she's the most quietly powerful person we've ever spoken with because she exudes, just like Bob Ross, like I've said a million times, comparing her, is that
a lot of Bob Ross name drops in these.
With her delivery and her cool serenity. And if you listen to her speak, you'll understand why she hypnotizes millions of people.
Yep, and you need to take a shot every time Ben says Bob Ross in this episode.
Bob Ross.
So here we have
Brown Ochre.
Part 2 with the charismatic voice, Elizabeth Zharoff. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Siobhán Cronin. Welcome back to another episode of 2020. I'm here, as always, with my cohorts, my co-hosts, my friends, my bandmates in Lost Symphony. Our Chapter 3 album is coming out soon, so go check that out. But don't forget to go to 2020-d.com and subscribe to this podcast.
Subscribe.
And what you just heard is Benny Goodman, also here with Cory Peza. Oh my God, I almost called
Cozy
him
Powell.
Peza.
Yeah, Cozy Powell.
I'm losing my...
The jumper from Rainbow.
We're here with the ultimate vocalist, and I'm already messing up my vocal chops here.
Yeah.
So how's it going, guys?
It's going great. Very excited to be back. Very excited.
No, I am too.
And
she stuck around for part 2. So excited. Elizabeth Zharoff. So much interesting information that we got in part 1.
The
charismatic voice, amazing YouTube influencer,
.com,
singer,
/ everything, Patreon,
teacher,
like literally.
Patreon.
Basically, if you go into Google, it's the #1 search because she probably has SEO people going, "We are the Is it trademarked yet?
It is.
Also a good business person.
Yes.
That's because I got lucky and was friends through like D&D nerddom with a really cool lawyer who also knows about copyright on YouTube.
Well, let me ask you this: does he have a Black Lotus?
He doesn't, but he should.
Because I got a bunch of Moxes. I have a Mox Pearl and a Mox Diamond. I'm totally looking for an Alpha Black Lotus.
Oh, okay.
Magic the Gathering. No, is that a few years?
Yeah. No, I think that my husband would actually have one in a deck somewhere because he's kept most of his Magic cards.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So in the last episode, we were
glad
kind
we
of
can
just wrap
nerd
up.
out
You were
here.
going through your schedule, which is hugely impressive because you do a lot of stuff. And you're talking about recording, multiple videos a week, and just keeping engaged with the community on several platforms. I guess a good place to start for me, I would like to learn is how do you deal with time management and like keeping a work-life balance?
I'm not good at work-life balance. I am getting better at it.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the year, I basically said, at the beginning of 2021, I said to myself, I need to take Saturdays off. And that's because I'd spent about a year not taking Saturdays off, literally working every day. And my days are usually, sometimes they're 10 hours now, but usually 12 hours. So Saturdays off now. That's important, except for when we play Dungeons and Dragons. It's technically work. So I love that. But doing hiking and going outside really helps. So I'll do things like I'll go running in the morning and just get outside or go to like our backyard where I've been doing some gardening, and that helps keep me sane. But time management, I think it's really difficult, and it's been particularly interesting to get to learn about this year because I went from being just me about a year ago. I was still just me. And now we have 3 people besides me that are working mostly full-time. Kirk and Paolo are both full-time, and then we have somebody else who's really helping us with marketing.
How many views does it take to get to there? How many views does it take where you get 3 people working full-time?
Oh, well, it's not just the views, right? I'm teaching a ton as well in courses. So, and you have Patreon as well. So there's different things like that. So I don't know.
Probably
the
varies,
answer.
I'm
and
sure.
Also, the amount of views you have is not necessarily indicative of how much money you're making from videos.
Very
Ad
important.
rev is a tricky beast. And copyright is difficult.
Oh yeah, so you're playing
That's a good point.
other music on your channel. So does that, like you mentioned that you had a good friend at the copyright experience. I'm guessing that's come in handy from that standpoint.
Sync licensing.
It is crucial for any person that is doing reaction that would be considered fair use. So I'm going to harp on this for a moment if I can.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Okay. Fair use means that it needs to be transformative of the original material in some way. And there are other qualifications of that as well. Like you can't be taking money away from that original artist for it to be fair use. And there have been a lot of lawsuits and litigations recently that have changed how we can monetize things on YouTube for sure.
So wait, you should be a Transformer, but not a Decepticon.
Yes, that's good. So I think that it's really important to know that a lot of people say that if they're reacting to a video that it's fair use because there was a case where something that was similar to that was considered fair use, but it was in a specific circumstance. What happens is when you play a song on YouTube and you're playing it all the way through, YouTube's AI essentially will catch that and they'll do a content ID. And they'll usually say, oh, like this is a song by, let's see, it's by Devin Townsend. Maybe it's Deadhead by Devin Townsend. And it might even know exactly where it was performed. So it knows this. And often, like 95% of the time, immediately that means that any monetization from that video immediately will go to the people that had that.
When
or
you say
that video might...
Do you mean the Terminator, like Big Brother, Scientology? Like, what do you?
Yeah.
What is it? Knows it? Like Alexa?
It's an AI from YouTube that
But what is
essentially
it?
has gathered.
Ben, it doesn't know, but this happens to me with the guitar solos. When I do a cover of something, it will immediately trigger what the original song is.
Yeah, because
I
you're
know
so
what
good, they're fooled that you're actually them. Like they never think that I'm Freddie Mercury when I'm doing Somebody to Love.
Sorry.
They literally stop her. They're like, that is a Bach etude by Yo-Yo Ma. I'm like, no, it's not. Siobhán. Like, meanwhile, I'm like playing like Freddie Mercury perfect. I'm like, somebody flag me. Anybody flag me, please. Nope, fine. Up there for years.
So with the AI, there's not a human element. So I'm guessing things can get caught, and there can be issues where you're dealing with Skynet basically. Have you run into anything like that where you're just like, no, this is not it's supposed to
all
be
the time.
Yeah.
All the time. So it's very frequent that I'll play a song and then they'll say that my video is a cover song. I'm like, it's not a cover song. This is definitely not a cover song. And then it goes through this whole process. And because we're releasing 3 reaction analysis videos per week, it is very dangerous. And it's one of the biggest struggles of the channel, because if you get that content ID, you dispute it right away, right? That's an automatic thing in the YouTube system. We never are unhappy to receive one, because that means it is protecting artists from having their work stolen. That's really important. But we're technically fair use of it, so we are allowed to use it. The problem is there's so many people that are using it in not a good way. The companies that own the rights will most often immediately push back and say, we're not even going to listen to your video, watch it, anything. And they'll put it back and say, no, you have to go to an appeal next, so the next stage. And they make it so you have to go through like additional steps of litigation, essentially through YouTube. And that might mean that your video is totally blocked worldwide for another 30 days. It can be a very long time that it's just in the void. Or they might even take it further. If you push back against that appeal and you say, no, really, this is fair use, trust me, they're supposed to watch it. But sometimes they don't, and they just issue a takedown, which is a strike on a channel. If you get 3 strikes, your channel is gone. Like,
wow.
Toast. So we have to go through a process called a counter notification, and we can only have 1 strike at a time, and it has to be a temporary strike, essentially. They will go away automatically, I think, after 6 months. But
is this like getting a speeding ticket?
Kind of,
with your
except
insurance?
for not. Like, you don't go to prison after you get 3 speeding tickets.
You just lose your entire career.
Right?
Yeah.
So literally everything on the channel would be taken down if we had 3 simultaneous strikes. And it's very difficult because the companies don't know how to sift through, I think, all of these people who are claiming fair use. So as a result of this very difficult process, we become much closer to our lawyer friend who helps essentially defend us. We have to be very careful about planning when we do certain videos that are more likely to have companies that don't watch the videos and will just issue those strikes. And we've developed really great relationships with a lot of artists and a lot of labels to try and clear us ahead of time, so we can be a lot safer.
Do you talk to any of these artists prior to doing the videos or post doing the videos? Obviously, I saw the Devin Townsend one where you had the actual interview with him, but is that common?
It's becoming more common. When I first started it, that wasn't the case at all.
You go, girl. That's awesome. Isn't that awesome? Like, you can like literally be like, hey, I want to go talk about Devin Townsend. Devin Townsend, what do you think about me talking about you?
I know.
I like your hair, or lack thereof.
Right? And the whole octopus conversation was amazing. But yeah,
Kraken.
it's become a thing.
The Kraken.
Right, the Kraken. Krakeno. Yeah. It's really beneficial for the channel to feature an artist or a band. It directs a ton of traffic to them. That's how a lot of people discover new artists, new bands, new musicians. It's really, really good. It's one of the reasons I love doing it, is to expose people to more great music. And as a result, now a lot of labels have caught on to this and are actually seeking out reactors to do certain bands to try and help give them a boost. So we know right now that Ginger is recording some new material. And I guarantee you, because we're friends with their label, Napalm Records, we'll be reacting to that material pretty new when it comes out, and then we're probably.
Is that why you like Myles Kennedy so much?
It is not why I like Myles Kennedy
You're
so much.
so biased because he's totally not that good.
Oh, I think he's good.
Oh, I'm joking. I think he's
good.
literally
Okay.
not only is, do I think he's like good. I think he's one of the greatest of all time, and I loved watching you
Beautiful.
talk about him because it's fascinating. Because it's like, I've always known Myles Kennedy is amazing, but to hear somebody who's like Jedi at understanding why he's amazing, because it's like, okay, I get it. Like I could hear. But you're like, here, you said it, demystify. You demystify it. So can you demystify something for me? Because here's one of the biggest disputes in my life. I guess I've lost sleep about it, about how to feel. And I don't know how I should feel. So I feel like you should tell me how I should feel. I love the band Queen. Okay? my first like 10 records ever were Queen, which is why I'm ruined on vocalists, because I mean, I personally think Freddie Mercury is the GOAT. Like myself, personally, just myself, which is such a cliche thing to say now. I liked it when it wasn't cool for a while then. I don't know.
Yeah, they were just a little band.
Yeah, but anyway, so, now they have a guy named Adam Lambert. And, as a musician, I understand that Brian May and Roger Taylor wrote all this music, but like, as a staunch Freddie Mercury person, people are like, no, you should push the music down and let it die with Freddie Mercury. But I saw Adam Lambert. I saw him. And anyone that says that he's not good and doesn't do that music justice and do something completely different with it is a liar and doesn't like fun. And I want to understand, like, what's the can you explain the differences between their voices to me? Because I know that Brian May goes on all the time about how Adam Lambert has a wider range, and like I know he does. I've heard him sing higher notes and lower notes. But why is Freddie Mercury so awesome?
Well, I'm going to leave you hanging here because I'm actually going to be releasing a video hopefully soon once it's cleared copyright, which is talking about Freddie Mercury and what makes him so awesome. So just wait for that.
Okay, cool.
Click the link in the description, and by the time this episode comes out, it might be out there.
Very cool. He read your mind.
Thank you for that wonderful advertisement, Benny.
When you were talking about,
do you talk about Adam Lambert on there? Can I be? Do you talk about him at all, or is he fair game?
I don't know.
Or is he part two that's coming later?
Ben, stop trying
maybe
to.
Part two. Maybe.
Yeah, just let it be a surprise.
That's a good parlay because they had Paul Rogers, the voice, and Adam Lambert. And Paul Rogers wasn't as successful, but a great vocalist. But Adam Lambert works. That is a video that everyone will watch.
There you go. Take that to the bank, right?
Boom. Amazing.
You were talking about like building that relationship with the labels and the band, so that they say, hey, we got a new record coming out, like we review it, and I'm just sitting here thinking like, I wish we had a singer. Like we'll send you one of our songs. You can sit there and stare at the screen for 7 minutes. You can sit there for 7 minutes with no vocals and then just go like, I wish. Yeah, that's
two things about that though. In response to what Cory's saying, one, we had a reaction that I thought was great where because we have a lot of orchestral stuff and guitar playing, where the reactors actually said that the guitars are like the vocals, which is exactly what we kind of meant. Which would be interesting to see what you think about that. But we do actually have some stuff where we've done some vocals, and we have my friend Mike Golars, who I'd love to see you talk about, because he does Ronnie James Dio. We did Gates to Babylon, which is a really audacious song to cover because, as you probably know, you should not, I guess, do the Dio thing unless you're capable. And I thought as a producer he was capable, but like if he's not, like I still win because I'd love to see him be upset at me. So we should probably just send that to her.
Yeah.
There you go. Send it to me.
That's coming. It might be out by the time it's not out yet, but it might be out by the time.
It's coming out. It's going to be a thing.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
But
wow.
Yeah, so that's great, that you're building those relationships and hopefully minimizing copyright issues. As that goes forward, are you looking ahead at is the channel moving in any direction, differently than just going off the standard like counting the comments and seeing what people are asking for? Am I treading on dangerous water here? Okay.
No, that's super fair. We talked a little bit about it in our 250K party, which was like a few months ago. It's growing so fast. But yes,
250,000 followers, ladies and gentlemen. So
a few months ago, she's now almost 4,000.
And just so you understand, she's at like
400,000.
probably by the time this airs, I can guarantee she's at over 400,000.
Yeah,
no
that's
question.
a huge growth.
She probably is by the end of this interview.
400K tonight.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Exactly.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
I'm investing in you like Bitcoin. Yeah. You're like my blockchain.
There we go. So yeah, we're going to be going to Bloodstock in August, which is a metal music festival in the UK, and we're going to be doing a bunch of backstage interviews there. So that's going to be the first time that we go and do that, and We're really excited and we're nervous because we have to figure out equipment and that kind of thing. And I'm an opera singer background, right? So that's exciting.
Can I give you a piece of advice?
Oh yeah, give me some advice, please. What should I use?
First off, your attitude. See what I'm looking at you like?
Too much.
When anyone looks at you like you're not supposed to be there,
Ben.
Look at them like, why are you even questioning me? That's how you do everything at festivals. Siobhán gets everywhere because she's like, I've never even been in Gen Pop, which is what she calls the plebeians. Okay, you understand that term? She calls them Gen Pop. Okay, that's the people that the plebes, right?
I do not.
But she has such a disconnect from the plebes that she doesn't even have a look on her face that would make somebody with a backstage pass even look for it. So these are not the joys you're looking for. So to be able to get the content, you have to look like you're supposed to be there. You're supposed to be there. That's the mindset that you have to be in there. And then when you talk to the musicians, just remember, they're just animals.
The difference
they just want to be pet.
The difference is she is actually supposed to be there. You're projecting
right,
yourself as you try to sneak backstage.
Yeah, that's right. They always kick me out. Shit. I'm not on any list. I'm not on the list.
I think she was asking more, what should she use to do the actual interviews?
The H6 Zoom. The Zoom H6 is what you should bring. It's literally, you're very welcome. If you go on to Amazon, this thing has a bunch of different adapters. We got one for Siobhán too.
This is what I use when I'm traveling.
Actually, she got
to
two.
do the podcast.
But they basically have a little adapter at the end of them that you can do for like, the sound of a room versus direct sound, but the quality is incredible. And if you have one of those running or even two of them running, and you can plug things directly in. So if you have a lavalier, which as you know, good sound is everything. So you can lav yourself up at least so that if you're pointing something in someone's face, you'll still be able afterwards to control the tracks separately. So you may have your own track and then the track of whatever noise you have.
Oh, amazing.
And that's going to be, and they can have, those have built-in limiters too. So if you have like crowds or a lot of extra noise, you can control that where you're getting a very controlled
Comes in
field of
handy when
sound.
Ben screams into the microphone.
Exactly.
Which is quite frequently, as we've learned.
That's amazing. What kind of lav mic do you use?
There's so many, like honestly, if you're just, it's not so much about what you use, it's the fact that you're using a lav mic. The fact that you're getting that sound directly,
Maybe
because
Cory,
you can use a
what do you
headphone.
say?
You can literally turn your headphone around and go, hey, and that will
Cory's brain
sound
is
better
exploding.
than using a mic that's not direct. Almost every time, even if it's an amazing microphone.
Your
because
mileage may
that's just
vary on
sound.
that one, but yeah.
AKG didn't tell me that. They told me that I could make this a microphone, man. I could sound like an Adele. An Adele. I could be in another Endel.
If you want a tech setup for live interviews, we'll send you a message after the show.
I'd love to.
Be happy
We've
to
been
do that.
very much investigating this and trying to figure out exactly what to do. We think we got the camera situation down, which is great. Because we had a video guy, Landon Donahoe, recently came here to Tucson. I know. We flew him in from LA, and he helped us make a music video for the next all-vocal video I do on the channel. So that's going to be something in addition.
Very cool.
I started doing some all-vocal things of my own stuff, and I think we're going to do maybe 4 or 5 a year now where it's like just me, all the, like, almost like a cappella.
Oh, cool.
Think like Peter Hollins, but lady. And I'm keeping it very video game themed because video game music is awesome.
It's amazing.
And then we did a little house concert where I'm playing and singing as well. So we're trying to work on a couple more musical things in the channel to release.
Have you thought about doing like more events now based on what you're doing now that COVID seems to be like chilling out a little bit, dare I say that, in Massachusetts, by the time this airs, I don't think we're even, and we're a very strict state and rightfully so, we're not going to have to wear masks anymore. Are you going to get everyone together? Are we going to play Dungeons and Dragons in person? Can we see you backstage? Because I know Siobhán, it's funny you say that because she's playing with Starset with Metallica. And just because I want to see Metallica, I was like, hey, can we make this a thing for our show? And basically, can you just get me passes so I can like not be a plebeian? And
so you can go harass
we're gonna do the same
Metallica
thing.
on my
So maybe we can all hang out and high five and go like, look at your Zoom H6, and they'll send them to you for free because you can. In fact, you should call Zoom or email them and be like, do you know who I am? Have your husband do it because it's way cooler when he says it, obviously, because he's not you because you have to go through him.
Tip, we do
right.
that.
Yeah. And be like, listen, I was told by 3 audio engineers that I should use the Zoom H6. I'd be happy to talk about it. Can you please send me 10? And then send me, Cory, and Siobhán more just for fun.
Right. That's actually not a bad idea. We might actually do that.
That's a real thing. You should.
He drops one good idea per episode. So
Brought to you by Zoom at zoom.com.
All right.
Not this Zoom that we're on, but the other Zoom.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
The other Zoom. I used an H4n for a while at one point, but I think it probably needs to be upgraded. That was like long ago when I was trying to record fully for video games.
Yeah.
Right? But so interviews backstage, we are going to also be at Heilung. I think it's October 6th at Red Rocks in Colorado. We got those tickets a long time ago. We're doing a meetup there of whoever wants to be at that concert. So yeah, community events happening. I just heard about another one that I think we might be doing at the end of November. So we're trying to post those in lots of different places so people know about it and can come and say hello in person.
It's amazing. I wanted to ask you about community building and about Patreon, because that's also something I'm pretty unfamiliar with. I know a lot of artists, even that we've talked to, do have Patreon pages. At what point did you get into that? Like, at what level of subscribers? Like, how do you know that that's a space that you should move into? And how does that function with, building your community? Like, what kind of purpose does that serve for you, like building your brand?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I had I had a lot of hesitancy with Patreon because it can get a bad rap if you are, like, there are certain different kinds of people that will use it sometimes, and it doesn't feel like it's like people are getting the right kind of value from it. So the advice I got was don't sign up for a Patreon or create your Patreon until you have everybody asking for it, just tons of people asking for it. So once, I actually probably was a little bit late because the channel blew up so quickly. But I think that we started Patreon, I want to say it was September of last year. And I think we're between 500 and 600 patrons right now, which is really good.
Yeah.
And that, for us...
We're psyched if we get that many views.
Across every episode together.
I'm like, dude, we've won. Like, dude, we got 500 people that have watched us this week.
Yeah.
and of course, like, no, only 10% of them actually watched us. Like, 90% of them stopped after 2 minutes and 13 seconds.
As soon as they heard your voice. Yeah.
63-minute episode.
Right. Well, I think it's really important that you don't start that Patreon too early, because Patreon takes a lot of time and effort. You need to be able to make those monthly goals and those monthly deliverables happen for people. It's really easy to bite off too much when you first started Patreon. I know, I did it. And I even had the advice of not biting off too much. And I was like, oh man, I totally bit off too much still. But I think I was over 100,000 at that point for sure. I was probably closer to 150,000 when we got the Patreon rolling. So big, or it might have been right about 100,000 actually when we started it up. So I would say for channels, maybe sometimes channels have a really good involved following with smaller numbers that want that Patreon. And people are saying, where's your Patreon? I want to sign up. If you have people asking you a lot, then start a Patreon. If nobody is really asking, or there's like one or two, don't do it. Don't do it. It's going to be a big learning curve. You're going to have a lot of deliverables, and you're not really going to be having the right return on that investment of time.
So to piggyback on what Siobhán said, though, without the Patreon, what can people be doing to build that community that gets to the point where they actually care enough to ask you for that?
Respond to comments. Respond, engage with your community. Wherever your community is trying to reach you, that's not true. Respond to your community in the place where you want them to be active.
They're out in the front yard right now, like yelling at us guys. Yes.
Corey's like, be very careful about what you say, because Ben has a propensity to get on the internet and say things to people.
Yeah, we don't want him actually talking to anyone.
I want to ask you about the frequency of posting and like content creation. Let's say you're just starting out. How do you know how often to make a video? Like, do you try to just put out as much as you can? Do you come up with like a calendar? Obviously, you're taking feedback from your listeners and your viewers, but how do you know is enough to post so that people stay engaged, but not too much that you're spreading yourself too thin?
Yeah, super good question. And we talk with a lot of other reactors as well, and have formed like a little hub of various reactors to talk about these things and figure out what's working and what maybe isn't working as well. We see new reactors sometimes get online, or just new content creators, I should say, and be posting every single day. This can work in certain situations, but if you are dealing with fair use and copyrights, posting every day is a terrible idea, because there is a very high likelihood that you will get extra strikes and your channel will be taken down. So to any person that is going into that area and disputing copyright claims, don't do every day.
Choose your battles wisely.
Yeah, I really do. It is very important to have regularity. So if you're going to post on Mondays, keep posting on Mondays.
Business rhythms.
Yes, business
I'm just going to be like your hype person. Business rhythms.
Perfect. We found that it is a sweet spot to keep going at 3 a week. I originally was doing 2 a week, or I was doing 1 a week, added a second, then I started doing a third.
How many do you have to do to get 3? Because you said that you have like a buffer of like knowing that they may flag you. So do you do 5 a week, or do you have certain floaters? You're like, okay, if this one goes off into limbo land, we got Phil Collins up next.
I would say I average recording and then, editing, and Kirk does the video, I do the audio editing, and we put it all back together. We get 4 done, usually per week, to give us some buffer. And sometimes that means that we have videos that are planned out and ready to go in the future, and I don't feel well 1 week, and so I don't record then. So it gives me that buffer now. I didn't used to have that. When a video got blocked and there was no way I was going to get unblocked the next day, I'd record the video for that next morning at like 1 a.m. and premiering at 8 a.m. and I just would suck it up.
Is this the swequity that people need to understand, that it's required that if you really do have because one of the things that, our friend Paul Geary, who's a manager in the music world, said to me, is the worst part about getting a number 1 single is knowing that you have to probably put in $500,000 to $1 million more just to continue that. And the amount of work, it sounds to me like getting to the level that you have is that like, until you are where you are now, like the in-between is so hard. It sounds like it's so demanding that like if they take you down, you literally have to do all of that again and just deal with it.
Yeah. There's things you just got to deal with and just, keep going.
It sounds like that was a valuable lesson, creating that buffer.
That cachet.
With how fast your channel has risen in popularity and everything you're doing, can you talk about maybe some other really important lessons that you've kind of learned along the way, whether the hard way or the easy way?
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to always be improving your visual, your audio, whatever it is. Just keep making adjustments to improve it, because we look at things at the very beginning of the channel and I was like, oh, that was pretty good for what I've got. And then a few months later, I was like, oh, that's much better. And a few months later, oh, that's much better. It's little tiny things you just keep tweaking. And eventually that production quality does look pretty good. But don't throw something away at the beginning just because you're like, oh, it's not good enough. You got to get it out. You got to release it. And then just say, okay, maybe that's my 90%. I will do better the next time. There are always going to be little things that you find while a video is premiering where you go, oh, I hate the way the color shifted there in the video or something like that. That's where I'm at now.
One thing that we hear from all the people that we talk to is that you just have to go. At some point, you just have to go. So you just have to put yourself out there, because, I mean, I know I've definitely even worked with artists, and I've been this person myself. And, you hear about people like Prince who have more unreleased records than they even have out, where, they're like, oh, yeah, I have a whole record. Forget it. Mm-hmm. Just put it away. You're like, oh, my God, he's that level of an artist where he's like, so the fact that you are the way that you are, and you also have the luxury of being able to pick and choose now, are you happy that you're able to not be so inhibited in sharing your love and passion now? Like you said, it's not about the money. You said it's about sharing the vision. Well, now it sounds to me like you have a team helping you share the vision. What's the end game for you?
Oh, end game. I feel like I can't really see out 20 years ahead. That feels so enormous to me. I used to look out 10, 20 years ahead when I was doing opera because there was a more clear path. And I'd say,
hindsight's 2020.
Right? Oh, 2020.
2020-d.com, subscribe, lawsymphony.com, chapter 3.
I think that if I'm thinking about long-term goals, we have things like we'd love to continue to expand. We're going to be releasing merch pretty soon. We've been really working on that in the background. That's been intense. And we want to continue to build that community like crazy. I'd love to get to the point where I can release a video every single day, but it's not going to be just reaction and analysis videos. It'll be, artist videos like the Freddie Mercury one that we've been working on. It'll be our own music in some ways. I have a video I've been working on about the mechanics of burping, so I'm gonna release that.
Well, hold on, but do you think there's a point where it's going to be so much pressure to have a high quality threshold, or is it just because you're so natural at what you do that you know you'll never run out of things to be excited about?
I'm not worried about running out of content. A lot of creators struggle with that. It's just actually Sean and I had a conversation about this not too long ago. I feel like there's sort of two different kinds of creators. There's the one that I'm in where it's like, oh my gosh, I want to do this and this and this and this and this. And it's like hard to try and get it all out there. I'll bite off more than I can chew a lot of times. But then there are sometimes if the niche is a little bit too narrow, maybe then you start running out of content and it's a little
like
bit
opera?
hard to continue to reinvent. Yeah, maybe. But opera is a very deep niche. I don't know.
No,
maybe
it is, but it's
so
amazing.
nerdy.
No, but I'm saying that, like, listen, if you had not done the metal thing, I wouldn't have listened to you. And I'm now enamored with you as a person, and I think that that's fantastic. That like you've now turned me on to something where I would normally be like, The only person that's ever made me say, "Hey, opera," that opera thing was Freddie Mercury did an opera record.
But it helps. It helps. I think that Elizabeth, that you're a learner, and I feel like because I experience the same thing. It's like I'm always wanting to learn something new, and then I always by doing that get an idea of something that I want to do on my own. So like all these things you talk about, that you're taking different lessons and you're continuing with your singing, and like I feel like that really does help you just stay on the ball all the time of like having new ideas. You're just constantly in that like creative motion. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I think one of the big lessons that I've learned too, I guess I've had it all along some, but I think it's just contributed to my success in various areas of life enormously, is I am continually investing in myself. That might be boxing lessons. It might be that I need to go to yoga, like, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I relate to that.
Yeah, essentially, if I'm the face of the Charismatic Voice, I need to make sure that my information is fresh. I need to make sure that I'm fresh. I need to keep that. I want to provide value, and if I'm part of that value, I have to make sure that I am valuable by investing in myself.
That's amazing. That's an amazing statement. So
it's a really empowering statement, because you know what, like for people, but like also for like women and for singers, because you say charismatic voice, but like you're very confident. Like when I said to you, like, do you ever think you'll like run out of content or something? You didn't miss a beat, and like because you're so passionate about music, and that there's enough music out there that you're never going to be bored. And the fact that you didn't miss a beat, and you literally. That's why you're going to continue to grow this. This is going to continue to be a thing, because that authenticity, like it is a real thing. And like, you can't make that up. Like you can't make another Elizabeth. Like that's not something that's scalable other than using your channels, but there's not going to make another one of you. There's just going to be people taking the ideas. But the X factor is the fact that if you put you in a room, you're going to be the same way, whether there's 1 million people watching you or 0 people watching you.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true. Same Elizabeth.
So just kind of getting into the way that you've handled, all these different decisions, because, you said from the beginning in our first episode, you were, I forget what you were doing, but you heard, that you could possibly make video game music, and you're like, oh, I want to do that. How do I do that?
Yeah.
That jump from I want to do that to how do I do that is not a jump that many people think they can make. And it seems like throughout your career, you've made that decision several times. What's your mindset on that, from that angle of how has your trajectory been guided by your decisions of following what you want to do?
Now, this is something I don't think that I've nurtured intentionally and developed. It's something that has been pointed out to me a few times. Where, like, even going back to when I was a kid and going to this Bach festival in Lake Chelan in the middle of Washington State, I was like 10 or 11 years old.
Do you want a Bach?
Decided, yes, J.S. Bach.
Yes.
Anyhow, the choir is singing these extremely complicated things. So I was like, I can sing them. Whatever, I'm going to sing with the choir. And there was no part of my brain that was like, maybe I shouldn't do this.
I think that's
And
an
so
element
here's
of
this like
many
10 or
successful
11 year old,
people.
and my mom was singing in the choir. I'd practiced with her in the car and like sung along for funsies, and then I just went to choir rehearsal for funsies, and then was like, yeah, I'm going to perform with them because I wanted to and I could do it. And I think that I kind of have like maybe a part of my brain missing that says,
I thought you were positive. You have an extra piece of your brain, right? It's an extra piece.
maybe. Well, maybe, but it has happened a few times.
Well, we've
where
said
it's
this
like,
about a lot of people, and I firmly believe this, is that anyone who wants to be hyper successful, almost at anything, but most definitely with music, is missing something inherently, and either has a personality flaw or they're just
trauma,
like, oh yeah, they're delusional.
neurosis.
But like one of the, I don't even know if this is a true quote, but like the story definitely holds
It's never
true.
stopped you before.
Well, I know, right?
a true
False
quote with
information. But somebody told me a quote about Bono, where they asked Bono from U2, "Did you
Oh, this
ever
is
think
good.
you'd be in the biggest band of all time?" And he said, "I always knew I was in the biggest band. I just wasn't sure when the rest of the world was going to figure it out." And like that mindset, that audacity, that total owning. Like, when you hear a guy like Gene Simmons of Kiss Talk, he's just like, I created this personality and I basically told them I'm God and now I can release anything and they'll buy it. And they do. And they do. Like, he manifested it. Like, God bless Gene Simmons and Kiss and the capitalism that is that thing. But like, that is the kind of reckless abandon, I think, and the missing part you have to have is that ever thinking that maybe I might fail, because the fact that you just like put yourself out there, you're like, not only am I going to do video game music, I'll learn how the coding works on this thing and interacts with that thing, and then figure out all the interdimensional layers so that it can be like a real time, like, it's kind of like AI meets classical music, and it's great because you can make decisions. Because one of the things that's constrictive about classical music is the fact that
So I want to point out right now, because I've watched so many of your videos, the vein on Ben's neck right now, is that good vocal technique?
I have to say, speaking of comments, my favorite comment that we've ever gotten on one of our videos is someone said that his voice sounds like a cigarette smoking a cigarette.
How do you know that?
That's amazing. That's a great comment. I had a comment one time. This is just legendary now. It said, "Your left eyebrow is thicker than the other one, but nice video."
And now you know the video was really nice, because that's as honest as it comes.
And so I responded back that was the eyebrow with superpowers. And I love it.
That's amazing.
Oh my God. No, but I think that to go back to what everyone was saying, that fundamental belief that like you have this idea and this vision in your head and really believing it and just going and doing it like that, you're right. That's a leap that a lot of people don't take. And it's like coming from classical music, I totally understand like people worrying like, oh, is this going to be accepted? Is this good enough? Like there's a lot of
next
judgment
single,
that goes,
Acceptance, from lawsymphony.com.
There's a lot of judgment that goes on. And I think, there is a risk involved with putting yourself out there on the internet and doing something and having to deal with that, the commentary that comes from people.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think maybe I've often been focused more on the experience, and I haven't said, oh, that end goal has to be good enough for this thing. With the singing in the choir, I'd been practicing it all along. And so when I was singing and practicing with them, there was sort of no reason why I wouldn't just perform with them as well. I think if you're in that experience and you're working towards something, even if you don't, like, it's like if you aim for the moon, at least you shoot the sky, right? Maybe that's a different one.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
What you said that's so important, isn't part of it knowing that you are good enough regardless of what people say? And that seems to be like you could look people deadpan and say, you just said it again. I've practiced. Like, I know how to do this. Like, I'm supposed to be here. And the fact that you are like that is why, like, whether people hate on it or they don't hate on it, like, you know that you're doing the right thing. And I think that is why you're the charismatic voice, is because you've known you've been doing the right thing. And when people have told you you're doing the wrong thing, you've corrected it and then continue to do the right thing.
Yeah, you have to be open to that guidance, because it's growth. I love growth. I love being a person that is continually growing and evolving. And if I don't listen to feedback, how can I get better?
Yeah.
Now, don't listen to feedback from the wrong people, though.
Yeah.
Just like a little grain of salt. I love with operatic career, you would essentially, as Matthew Epstein gave some really good advice to a bunch of young artists at one point, had to assemble your team of people that you trust. So I will trust feedback from these coaches, this voice teacher, this conductor. And if you're getting feedback from somebody outside of that, they probably aren't qualified to give you that feedback. So accept feedback from qualified people. Now, our regular audience is qualified
What a
to give me
diss.
feedback.
I only accept feedback from a qualified. I'm gonna use that on like my next troll on like Lost Symphony. It's gonna be my mom being like, Ben, you need to go clean your room. I accept feedback from better people than you. So
Well, if she listened to everyone, she would have shaved off an eyebrow at this point. So it's better that
well, maybe she's getting threaded. I don't know. Did you talk to your husband and do you have some local like lady that does that for free and you shout her out on your show on your show? Because that's what you should be like. I have 10 million people watching me on this video. Thread my eyebrows. It's $27, lady. I'll give you the tip in cash. There's a comment. Look at this comment.
She's much nicer than you are, Ben. You would totally milk all that, but she's much nicer than you are.
I get them done now for free.
That's amazing.
Thanks to my
I
girls.
think we did an April Fool's video where my husband actually got a wig to look like me, and I drew eyebrows on him, one that was thicker than the other. So we just taking that. It's like, it's improv, right?
Yeah.
We've done improv for opera and acting too. Yes, and it has superpowers.
So funny. I love that you said, though, that it's a process. And I think that's one thing that I've learned in what little videos I've done is that, you know, you have to revel in the idea of this being a step in the right direction. You know, it's never going to achieve absolute perfection. And that every time, like you said, you just have to do it and it's going to get better next time. You learn from each video that you post, from the comments that you get. And
Siobhán,
it's so important
do you
to
ever
realize
feel like
that's
you
part of
rebel
it.
yell?
I'm not even going to laugh at your jokes anymore. I'm just going to give you a poker face.
Is it
continue.
poker face? Are you sure that's what she's saying?
Oh my gosh. Curb stomping the.
I think as you're in that process of growing, as long as you sort of know where your true north is, which comes back to that, what's your goal? And if you know where that is, and you just keep trying to go towards it, whatever the tools are, the things that you're learning, you know, like, oh, I want to learn beatboxing. Why? Because it helps me understand another aspect of vocal or just human creation of music so that I can help increase vocal and music appreciation among other people. As long as it keeps tying back into that, your growth will be in the right direction.
Is beatboxing like one of those things that like now, because you do a cappella stuff, you go in with your girls and you're like, I just learned something totally freaking, like we got drums now. Like it's like going to a band, you've been playing guitar and all of a sudden like there's a 7-piece drum kit, except the drum kit is you.
Yeah, the first time I put it into an a cappella arrangement, I was like, oh, this sounds so dope now.
You should do reverse, reverse snare like a Tommy Lee Motley Crue thing, except with your voice. Like you should do the sucking noise. Yep,
Like that kind of thing.
Oh my God, I love it already.
Kind of cool sounds.
You could do anything.
No.
You can go anywhere with that voice.
I gotta say, most of the time, like, once you get a sound in vocal percussion, which is like the fancy way of saying beatboxing, once you get a sound that's really cool, it's super awesome. So if I go like that, is a sound that's just the kick sound I've been working on a bunch, and it sounds so much better than it used to. But the problem is that when you're working on sounds, like I have been trying to work on a specific snare sound, and it just sounds like flatulence at first. I'm like,
An awkward thing to
ridiculous,
practice.
and there's spit everywhere. And if you can't laugh at yourself in that growth process, then you should probably not be taking lessons.
Yeah.
Right? It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely hilarious and fun.
Oh my gosh. So I want to ask a question going back to the business side of things. How did you learn how to scale your business? Because I think that's something that is probably really hard to learn. Like if you don't have a business background, this is something that you inevitably have to deal with when you get a large amount of work and you have to figure out how to spread it among other people. And
Delegation.
You know, but how did you learn how to do that? And at what point did you start having to do that?
That has been the last year, is learning how to be a boss. Like literally, it's so difficult. You learn how to give directions when you're teaching, of course. And I've done that, both with the individuals and group classes. That's different than having a person that you need to give directions to for all of their full-time work. And it's really been a learning experience for me. Thank goodness for Paolo, who is so patient. As I've learned how to become more clear with directions, it's so hard to learn exactly how many words to give, but not give so many so that their creativity is stifled. It's a difficult thing. Definitely a process of growth in there. One of the greatest things and assets to me, though, has been that my husband majored in business. So he's helped a lot. And we've discussed a lot. I also, I did join a group of women's entrepreneurs called the Doers Way. And that helped me understand business in slightly friendlier terms. So the first time the husband pulled out, like, here's your business plan, I was like, oh my God, that's so much paper. It's such tiny writing.
You're like, don't you have an iPad, bro?
Right. It's still tiny writing on the iPad.
Well,
though.
I was gonna say, but your technology. You'd be like, here's the hologram.
Yeah.
Where's Obi-Wan Kenobi? Here are my only.
No, but it's like a different language. It really is. It's like a different.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Right.
HTML.
So being part of a women's entrepreneur group was very helpful, because then I felt inspired by some of the women around me, seeing how they were making these leaps, and having it just reframed into a way that was more digestible was helpful. But, I feel like I've grown and expanded beyond that as well at this point. So now I can understand the big boy business terms, but I couldn't. I just couldn't digest it a year ago.
Do you go back and share it
impossible.
with the people that when you were first trying to do that? Like, I mean, because I can only surmise that the women in your community that you've like worked with must be like, you go, girl, you are a boss lady, because you sound like the biggest boss lady I've ever talked to.
That's what
the whole time.
That's what women sound like, right?
I would
Is that what we sound
because
like
one
to
thing
you,
that
Matt?
Dan Beck, who used to be in charge of all these amazing artists at Epic, like worked with Michael Jackson, used to say is that the quality of your career in the entertainment world is judged by really the quality of problems that you have. And it sounds to me like the problems that you have are becoming higher and higher and higher quality.
Yeah, I feel like that is strangely true. The problem at first it was, well, how do I take my time and turn it into some kind of money? And now it's like, how do I make time for myself?
Sure.
You're like, I can't take enough money off the table, but like, I need to breathe, man.
Right? And it's, and then keeping in mind that I have to continue that investment in myself, which means time in myself. So instead of thinking like, oh, but if I was teaching private lessons during this time, I could make more money, and then we could have a nicer car. Like, no.
I have a very important question.
Yeah?
When you're doing Dungeons and Dragons, do you allow for like what's happening in life, like if someone messed up in the business or like you're mad at them, to penetrate the Dungeons and Dragons? Or like if you're a paladin and you're just like a lower level, like orc or something like that, like is that level actually kept in the Dungeons and Dragons world on the Saturday? Or are you like, I'm going to fire you. You're my husband. I'm going to fire you though. Like I am the charismatic voice.
Player knowledge is separate from character knowledge. Rule has to be such a rule. Cannot spill over. Otherwise, you destroy your campaign, and that's the most important thing.
Wow.
Wow.
That's some serious commitment. But that's like, so does everyone like have like a pact? Is it like a blood pact where you talk to your husband and then you talk to your friends and you get couples and you're like, listen, you got to really do this. Like, this is serious. Like, if you for 1 second tell me that you have a Ferrari and I have to tell you how many views I have and look at and show you stuff because you think that you could win because the dice didn't for you, we're done. I don't think Marsha's going to do it. I think Marsha's going to break character and she's going to pull that elitist shit and we can't have it.
Yeah, Marsha probably wouldn't be invited to the campaign.
It's about that time where we go completely off the rails, near the end of our second episode.
But speaking of, on another note, well, related, but when it comes to strategy and like coming up with ideas for how to engage with your audience, how do you go about coming up, like let's say in regards to the Patreon? I don't know much about Patreon, to be honest, so I might be asking questions that people already know the answer to. But do you get suggestions of the type of things that you should be doing to help engage with your audience, or is it self-directed? Like the idea of playing Dungeons and Dragons on Saturday. Like, is that something that you came up with, or is that something that a lot of people are doing? Or I'm just curious because these are amazing things. It's very cool. Like, it's all these different ways that you're engaging with the people that follow you. Like, where did that idea come from? Or like, where did any of the ideas come from for how to build this
J.R.R.
community?
Tolkien.
So the idea for Dungeons and Dragons came up because me and my husband like playing Dungeons and Dragons, and we're like, other people like it too. Other people stream it. Let's just call it the Charismatic Voice and make an all-bard campaign and have fun. So that's actually a small part of engagement in the community.
Sure.
Really fun. I think a lot of the engagement is literally just coming from comments and asking people, and not. It is about research. I'll go and I'll look at another channel and how they're engaging, or look at another Patreon and see how they're engaging, how they're doing. We have all kinds of background data, and we just love data as much as possible. When are people engaging the most with the channel? Where are our viewers from? What kinds of things, how long do they watch the video? There's all kinds of analytics in the background of YouTube that really inform us about that. So we just love having tons of data that can explain like what's happening out there. So we'll go and research it from other channels. When we were looking at merch, we looked at like the top 20 merch sales, and from one website that we found, looked at what they were selling, what brands were supplying that as well. So doing a lot of thorough research, I think, is very important. Did that with reaction channels when I was really trying to form my brand as a reaction as well, and said, I like this, I like this, I like this, I don't like this, and this is the visual appearance that I came up with. We came up with words for it. So it is a lot of strategy, but I think it's important that you don't just take data from out there, but that you also directly ask people. So we go to our patrons and we say, what would you like to see in Patreon when we revise the tiers? We've done this multiple times. We say, what kind of merch do you want? We have all kinds of voting mechanisms. It's their community, so they should be able to shape it too. So we ask them what they want. Just literally ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing.
Very passionate about asking.
Yeah. That's great. No, but I mean, it's amazing how many things go into building what is the Charismatic Voice, or what is any of the different channels that people have. And there's probably a huge misconception that it's like, oh yeah, I spend 30 minutes doing a video and there it is. And there's all this, it's like the tip of the iceberg. There's all this stuff that's beneath it. And so it's really amazing to hear the process behind it, and the trajectory that you've gone through over the last years.
Sounds like it's more like the tip of the Zuckerberg.
It's something.
Yeah. That's what you're supposed to do, the boom ching with your beatboxing.
That.
Ding.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that.
I'll take it.
No, it's incredible what you've built, and it's been a treat to watch your videos and learn from you both on there, and as well as our discussion here tonight. So for anyone that is listening or watching, please go check out Elizabeth at the Charismatic Voice on YouTube, and her website, thecharismaticvoice.com. Check out the Patreon.
Elizabeth
Zharoff. We're just losing our
Zharoff.
words today.
It's a beautiful name. It's like cellar door. It's poetic. It's French. Everything French sounds better. It's like, and especially if you say it in an English accent, like Zharoff. Like it's better.
We'll have
and then
links.
if you say it to like a plain speaker, it's even better than that.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. We'll have links in the description to find all of Elizabeth's stuff.
Well, thank you guys. I think you're just such awesome people. It's been really fun to get to know you.
Oh, thank you. No,
You
it's
as
so
well.
fun to get to know you too. It was great watching your videos. You're such a radiant personality, and it just comes through, like the video, the audio, however people are listening or watching this, it's like, you can just imagine the way that you are, and it's so cool. I can't wait to go watch more of your videos, and
Thanks.
Yes.
very
Yeah,
cool
I
to
can't wait
meet
to know
you.
more of your stuff too.
Well, I wanted to say thank you so much. It really, it's like one of those things where people say that they know you because like they've heard so much of your voice or whatever.
Here
and
comes
it's
the
like,
epic end rant, by the way, for everyone that's used to it by now.
I'm saying that I really appreciate what you do, and I guess would you like honor us where we could send you like the records of what we have, and will you take the time to listen, because that's like asking you to do what you get paid to do for free. But like honest, because it's like, people are like, hey, can you listen to my song? And it's like some random dude. I'm like, no dude, I literally get paid to do this. So like I don't want to be like, hey, But like, it really would mean the world to me after watching all your videos if you just listened, because man, I find you awesome, and I really, it takes a lot to calm me down, and like
it truly does.
Me.
And we appreciate
well, I really appreciate the time that you guys gave me today, and I feel like it is a very, very fair return to say, of course I'll listen to your music. Send it to me.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very
So
much.
Sweet, amazing.
Add your address, and we definitely will.
There we go.
Very cool. So, guys,
Thank
check
you so
out
much.
2020-d.com. Like and subscribe, please. Are we doing that right? Are we getting all the subscription stuff in there?
And the Charismatic Voice at everything everywhere.
Charismatic Voice
and go to the
everywhere.
Patreon. I mean, it's not like she needs your help, but like you want to help, because like what she's doing is the same thing as Bob Ross. She's helping the world learn about music the best way possible because she wants to teach. So let the lady teach. Just let her do it. Let her do it all the time. Let her employ all of her friends. Let her employ all the smart people that she knows, because she's onto something. And like, I love it. I literally
Making
love
the world
it.
a better
and with
place.
all the reaction, like all the noise out there, like this is not noise. This is total harmony amongst the dissonance.
And on that note, you've been 2020. See you next time.
I cannot overstate how important just showing up is. Being there and knowing what you need to do and being professional when you're there, it is so much of it. Because, we've talked about this in the stuff that, when we've had meetings talking about the music you guys are making, at a certain point, the public just gets to decide, right? You do all the things that you have to do, but those things that you have to do them, and you have to do them over and over and over, and it's nauseating and it's exhausting, and it feels like it never gets to an end. I heard an awesome quote the other day that I've been loving, which is that success is not joy, it's relief. Because if you're that person that has worked that hard at a dream, when you get success, you're not like, oh my God, I'm sick. You're just like, holy crap, I can breathe.